County Chamber of Commerce Legislative Luncheon. I'm Chad Newsom, and it is my pleasure as chairman to extend a warm welcome to each of you on behalf of our local Chamber of Commerce. Today we have an opportunity to welcome back our representatives from Charlotte and to hear the important work that's being done, and to look forward to working alongside them to enhance our business community and quality of life. As we begin today's dialogue, please allow me to once again thank Tina Shaw for her years of leadership with the Chamber and the partnerships forged with our representatives over the years. And now please allow me to welcome our newest Chamber President, Pat Snively, to begin our additional greetings on behalf of the Chamber.
Thank you, Chad. Today, we gather not only as representatives of our respective industries, but also as advocates for the prosperity and growth of Marion County in North Central West Virginia. This luncheon serves as a platform for constructive dialogue and collaboration between our business community and our legislative leaders. Like Tina, I recognize the importance of forging strong partnerships and fostering an environment conducive to economic development and innovation. Our collective efforts can drive positive change and propel our region forward. Today, and for days and months to come, until the election and well beyond, I encourage us all to engage in meaningful discussions, share insights, and explore opportunities that will benefit not only our businesses, but also the communities we serve. Thank you for being present today. Thank you to our sponsors, Fairmont State University, Pierpont Community and Technical College, the City of Fairmont, WVU Medicine, Rogers Electrical, Marion Regional Development Corporation, and the High Technology Foundation. Please welcome the Marion County Chamber of Commerce's past chair, Jay Rogers, as he takes the microphone to serve as moderator for today's discussion.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. I didn't know that the past chair duties were going to include this when I retired. As didn't continue to get the warm welcome that Shaw does. But anyway, glad to see everyone today, and thank you again for coming out. It will be my job today to not moderate, but let's say keep the flow of this event going. So let's start with welcoming our senators, representing West Virginia's 13th district, which includes Marion and Monongalia County, Senator Mike Caputo of Reedsville, and Senator Michael Oliverio II of Morgantown. Please give a warm welcome to our House of Delegates, representing us, Phil Mallow, and Joey Garcia. Two of our other representatives, Mike Duvall, had planned to attend, but on last minute notice was not able to, as was Amy Summers. Amy represents Taylor County and a portion of Marion County as well, but she was not able to attend. We're going to jump in. We're going to start with Joey. We're going to ask you to provide us your brief snapshot of the work that was done in the session in Charleston, particularly items that would immediately affect our local business, climate, our environment here in Marion County, quality of life issues, and obviously anything that you would like to call attention to that may be coming down the line.
You sure you want to start with me?
No, I'm happy to start.
Yeah.
Very good. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all. I think every year this is a great event. He has done a fantastic job. Pat, it's been great to work with you so far. Look forward to the work that's going to be coming this year. And just all the people that support the chamber and all the different businesses and community leaders. I think this is an important discussion because to me the session, you get so into it. It's 60 days, but you don't know how often people look at the paper, look at the news, and see what's going on. And a lot of things that might be headlines one day didn't actually make it to the finish line, didn't actually pass into a bill. But one of the things I want to call attention to is that I'm not terribly happy with this legislative session. I don't think we did much of anything to help the people of West Virginia. Unfortunately, I think during some election years, you get into really divisive legislation that can tear people apart. That's really the only thing it's meant to do. And what that does is it takes important time from debate. There we go, I got a little bit better speaking voice now. It takes important time away from debate and focusing on the issues that I think matter to everyday West Virginians, and specifically how we do better with respect to our education system, with helping businesses, including small businesses, with trying to make sure that we have the best healthcare system we can possibly have. And I don't know that we did that much this year. And some of the bills that we discussed, one which I hope the governor vetoes had to do with vaccinations in our schools. And it was a bill that started off I think even more dangerous when it went to the Senate, and I really appreciate the work that was done by our senators to get a religious exemption, which sounds good on its face, but really we do the best, I think, out of most states in making sure that our children, when they go to school, public school and private school, are vaccinated. And one of the important things about that is we have not had outbreaks of measles and other types of diseases that, again, we've seen this in Florida, Ohio, and other places where they have the strength of those vaccine laws have deteriorated and public health issues have come up. And so the Senate took out this religious exemption, which really was a piece of paper that said, hey, I don't want to take it for whatever reason. I don't want my kids to take these vaccinations. And that would have opened the floodgates for a lot of different issues. So I'm thankful for that. But I also don't think the bill in general is a good bill, and the governor still has time to veto if he wants to. So we had issues like that. We had a bill called kindergarten carry, that's what I call it at least, which relates to allowing really any K-12 teacher or personnel to carry a gun in school, which I think was incredibly dangerous the way that it was put into effect. And that really would allow anybody and would have almost given a right to people to bring a gun to our schools. And I'm not against guns, but I don't think that's what we need them. So we had issues like that, and the other bill I want to draw attention to was driving in the left lane. I think we all make fun of Ohio sometimes, but that's what we wasted. We wasted a whole probably 2 hours of debate one day on that in the House. And what didn't happen? We did nothing about child care. I think that is the issue that I heard from the state chamber, from businesses, from people trying to locate in West Virginia, and just families in general. I mean, it's not just a women's issue, that's a family issue. And I think we had the opportunity, we had a number of pieces of legislation to help solidify the small businesses that are doing child care right now that need support, basically giving them stability as far as funding that comes into them, which would cost $41 million. We had tax credits that could help families more afford that, and a number of other things that could really make sure that with respect to our workforce issues, that we incentivize people to get into the workforce, and that's one of the biggest issues. That was a priority in the Senate from the President, it was a priority in the House from the Speaker, and it did not even get past the prosecutor. We had nothing to debate the last 30 days. In my opinion, a big part of that is because of the other bills that we wasted time on, most of which didn't pass. So I've probably gone on a little bit long. That's my main point, though. I think I'm hopeful. We are supposed to have, and this is the first time in my history being down in the House of Delegates, I didn't vote for a budget, partially because of defunding of the IED waiver.
And I think that has to be put back in. I'm hopeful that we have money that we have a better idea of our economic position in West Virginia. We did have some things that were up in the air federally, and we're supposed to have a special session in May. So maybe we can correct that shit. Maybe we can come back and do some of these good things. But up to right now, I'm not satisfied with what we did.
Thanks, Joe. Garcia? Mallow.
First of all, thank you for having this event. This is a great opportunity, as Joe said, to speak to everybody. I've talked to a few of you on the phone. I'm going to disagree with Joe to some extent. Most of the bills that we talked about came from folks just like the ones sitting in this room. And they called me on the phone and they said, hey, I want you to talk about this before we went down. So when we got to Charleston, we've lost about probably 400,000 to 500,000 people in this state over the last couple of years. So our dilemma was, we gotta find more money for the folks, or we've gotta find a less cumbersome way to do things. So everything comes down to funding, as you well know. And the big problem that we have is a lot of our retirees are taking their savings and everything and moving south. And we're trying to figure out a way to be competitive with Texas and Florida and Tennessee with their business practices and what they do. So the largest part, this was a large puzzle that we're putting together over the last couple of years, and regulations and rules and things that are required that perhaps 35, 40 years ago were necessary, now may not be as necessary. There's another way to track it and make it less cumbersome for a business that wants to come in here. So there's a lot of folks now that we're in the conversation for major corporations that never ever thought about West Virginia. You guys have heard about the ones that came in the last couple of years. They're going to have a significant impact on our state. I got an email this morning that we've had some growth in the Eastern Panhandle, and 3 other counties grew: Mon, Marion, and Monroe. So if you think about that, we're doing something right. But the fact of the matter is that there's not enough money to fund everything that we want to do. There's some wants and there's some needs. And there's some things that we really love to have. Some things we know that the child care issue is always going to be there, depending upon how many people here are moving away. Are we going to set up a program? Like right now, they want to know with child care, are you going to pay for attendance or are you going to pay for enrollment? That's an issue for the person that's running that daycare center. Situation being is that across the state, people are moving away because they can't find jobs. If we don't get jobs here, I always have an old adage that we can have 1,000 people paying a tax to provide the services that you've all grown accustomed to. When 100 people move away, the 900 that are left, guess what happens to their taxes? They either go up a bit or they give back some of the services that they're accustomed to. We've got to figure out a way to be competitive with other states when it comes to rules and regulations and opening up new businesses, making it easier. One of the things that I'm really, really proud of was they made me chair of the fire and EMS. When I got in, I got to look at some of the paperwork. We've forgotten about our volunteers with fire and EMS for like the last 30 years. And all of a sudden we started getting the momentum with the help of Joe and the other guys, the 2 senators up here. We raised the awareness level from year to year. Volunteerism is dropping off the table. We got to figure out a way to enhance those guys and encourage them. And it came down to we got $12 million last December, a one-time shot, and now we're up line item on the state budget. So that's never happened before. So there are a lot of folks saying that, well, the Eastern Panhandle is fine. We have the population, we have the commercialism. We don't need to do anything above and beyond. We're going to be fine. But in an argument, really an argument setting in committee, I said, but one of these days, your family's going to go across state to go to snowshoe, to go skiing. If something happens in one of those counties where we don't have they don't get there for an hour and a half, then you're going to say, well, we should have had that. We should have done that. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. One of the gentlemen said, well, you guys are going to come down to where you're going to have to realize you got to pay those folks. I said, okay, so what should we pay them? $40,000, $45,000, $50,000 a year. Skilled person that knows the EMT trade. Okay, I got 427 volunteer fire departments. You need 20 volunteer firemen to become a valid volunteer fire department. That's 8,540 people. I give them each $45,000. That's $552 million every year. We can't afford that with the people that we have. If you raise taxes, you lose people. We bring businesses in, we get the job, we spread the revenue out, and the 900 that are still here have an opportunity to raise their family with lower taxes. If we don't attract businesses here, this is gonna be a cycle that just keeps going on and on. So, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Some of the folks that I talked to in here during the session, thank you for calling me and letting me know how you felt about the issues that I was about to challenge.
Thank you. Senator?
Well, thank you for having us. Always a pleasure to get a chance to visit with everybody. Tina, thank you for doing this all through the years in the past, and I'm glad this is being continued. I enjoy serving with this legislative delegation. Joey and I work together on early child care and foster care issues. In fact, one night, I think we were up till about 10 o'clock with a group talking about some alternatives. Phil has just been tremendous on all the EMS and fire issues, and we've traded legislation back and forth along with my colleague in Montague County, Jeff Statler. And Mike and I have worked closely together on a lot of issues. Occasionally we vote on different sides of things, but more often than not, we're on the same side of things. I look around the room and I see so many people that came down to the legislature to visit us during the session. Whether it was both of the presidents, we had Toby representing veterans, of course George was down on transportation issues, our superintendent was there, we even cheered for East Fairmont's basketball team together. Many of our members, city council, mayor, and others were there. So we're seeing many of you during this session and getting input, and that certainly is helpful to us. I see our CBB director was down as well. And it's just helpful to have that communication during session. And Linda, who served many years in the House, knows what that's like as well. When we started the session, we had roughly a $5 billion budget that we were going to work with. And we had a tremendous variable, and that being about $700 million that the federal government was going to potentially claw back from West Virginia, in essence claiming that maybe it wasn't spent properly the last few years. It was COVID money from the CARES Act. And so I want you to think for a second, if your boss told you at the start of the year, you're gonna make $50,000 this year, and then said, but there's a chance we may only pay you 43, okay? And that's kind of the numbers to give you a sense. So how would you budget your family on the year if you thought you were gonna get 50, but you may only get 43? And that's kind of what happened to us during the session a little bit. So it was difficult to work through each process of the budget, not knowing for sure what was going to happen. There was also one additional variable. When we passed the tax cuts last year, within that bill is what's called a trigger. And based on some factors, if those kick in, it will trigger an additional tax reduction. And that's our West Virginia personal income tax. So as we started into the session, we weren't exactly sure whether we were going to hit that trigger or not, and know whether or not we had those dollars to spend, or those dollars were going to be a reduction as the state income tax from July 1 coming up to June 30 of 25 was going to be a reduction. So we had two variables, not exactly sure what our cash flow was going to look like. And then we had a host of variables on the expense side of the ledger. So it made for a challenging session. Some of the priorities that kind of rose to the top were trying to help our seniors. Currently, under West Virginia law, our seniors who have $50,000 of household income, adjusted gross income, single seniors, don't have to pay tax on their Social Security income. And households that have husband and wife that have less than $100,000 of adjusted gross income, those folks don't have to pay tax on their Social Security income. But all the rest of the seniors do. And we've had a lot of encouragement over the years to help seniors, many on fixed incomes, many with rising healthcare costs, and challenges with gas and groceries and everything else. And so this year we did eliminate the Social Security tax for all folks that are receiving Social Security. And it's going to be done as a phase out. So it'll take about 3 years to take everybody down to zero on Social Security. And as Phil was saying, you know, we're trying to recruit folks in here from other parts of the country. So we're offering some veterans benefits to retired military, maybe pull them in here. We're trying to make it attractive for seniors to live here, so we can show seniors that we don't have to pay Social Security tax on your Social Security benefits. So we're trying to do those kinds of things. You know, we passed a pay raise for public employees and for our school teachers. We continually hear from folks, we've got to pay our teachers more to maintain them and attract quality teachers. So there were some positive things that came out of the session. We're still waiting on the governor to take action on a few issues. The governor's got about 7 more days that he can decide what bills he may want to veto. Just to remind you how the process works, when a bill passes both the House and the Senate, the bill goes to the governor, and the governor can do one of 3 things. The governor can sign the bill into law, the governor can veto the bill, or the governor can choose to do nothing. And if the governor does nothing, the bill eventually becomes law. And so it's kind of where we are on some issues, and one of those being that vaccination policy, another one being a major bill this session that dealt with unemployment compensation. Those are sort of sitting on his desk right now. We're waiting to see what he'll do with them. The other responsibility that we have on the Senate side, different than the House side, is we have the responsibility to confirm the governor's nominations. So we're watching throughout the calendar year as the governor is making appointments, whether it's appointments, Mr. President, to your board or your board or other positions all throughout government. We're watching those appointments. There are times Mike and I are calling downstairs to the governor's office and we say, hey, we don't like this proposed appointment. And sometimes that proposed appointment goes away and a person is appointed that we like or that we feel like will do that job. And so there's some give and take there throughout the calendar year. But then about the last day of the session, then we cast a vote on whether we're going to approve those appointments or not. So that's a unique process that we have on the Senate side as well, and we worked our way through that. But I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, Senator.
Well, the trouble with being last, there's nothing left to talk. So I'll just move we adjourn and we can all
That's why we went in that order. So.
Well, and seriously, my colleagues did a good job talking about several things. I'm gonna take a moment of personal privilege here for Mike. This is my last year, after 28 years of service.
Here.
And it's not usual that a crusty old union guy like me gets along with a chamber crowd such as this. And we have always had a beautiful relationship. Tina, we have, as you know, we set aside those national issues and we just said, we don't even want to talk about those. We want to talk about what's best for Marion County. And you know, my colleagues that I serve with just can't believe that I've had that good of a relationship with the Marion County Chamber. We've done a lot of really good things over the years together. We've improved Marion County, blighted areas, and I guess the list goes on and on. But yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank Tina, congratulate Pat, and thank all of you, whether you voted for me or not, for allowing me to represent Marion County for 28 years. It's truly been the honor of my life. It absolutely Yeah, a couple things that I will just touch on. I know that this was a huge priority for the chamber, and that was child care issues. And we did nothing to child care. I don't even know that we even ran a bill out of any committee dealing with child care. We need that to have healthy workplaces, to have good workforce participation. I'm hoping the governor will take a look at that and maybe add that to the call in the special session. I did vote for the budget very reluctantly. I've only voted against maybe 1 or 2 budgets in my whole career, but I probably would have voted against that budget as Delegate Garcia did. But I knew we were coming back in May, and I'm hoping that we have another bite at this apple and we can fix some of the things that I was deeply concerned about. This $465 million clawback is a huge issue. I've talked to the finance chair, Eric Tarr, about it personally. I've talked to the governor's legal counsel, Brian Abraham, about it. They think we're going to be okay. They think we can prove that money was spent the way it was supposed to be spent, and we won't have to send it back. But if that thing goes south and we got to send the feds back $465 million, that's a huge hit for the state of West Virginia. That might not be big money as far as federal government goes, but that's a huge hit in the state of West Virginia. So I'm deeply concerned about that. I am appalled that we did anything to do away with vaccines in the state of West Virginia. If I offend anybody in here, I really don't care. I'm sorry about that, but I just think we have a great, healthy state. We've done such a good job, and we just can't, in my opinion, subject others to the measles outbreaks that are going on across this country. I just think it's a horrible, horrible, horrible idea. And we spent so much time dealing with social issues down there, what I call the red meat issues, and we let so many good things just kind of slide off the table and never get talked about. I mean, you know, there were so many social issues this year. I don't even want to get into them. I'll be happy to talk to you about them afterward. But I just think it's a horrible waste of legislative time when we can do so much good. A couple of things that I was really excited about, and it doesn't have anything to do with legislation. Well, it does in a way, I guess. Fairmont State's leadership team came down. We had a meeting with the Senate President. Got to know that team. Got very comfortable with that. I think they made a huge splash in there with him. And then Pierpont Community Technical College came down and met with Secretary Carmichael and Chairman Glenn Jeffries. And they're excited about getting involved in economic development in this area. And they took them up on it. So they're going to partner and do some really, really good things. So we made some good moves and made some good connections that I think will benefit Marion County as a whole in the short and long term, quite frankly. So that's what I think it's all about. Some of the things that was touched on that I think is really good for economic development is the Social Security tax being eliminated. When we put more money into our communities, I think everything will grow. Our pay raise for our state employees, which is, you know, kind of good and bad, because usually that eats up, PEIA increases, eats up that state pay rate, but I was happy that we could at least do that. And some of the problems that I think we really, really, really need to work on. It's been a problem since I've been there. I'm not blaming anyone for this, but it's just something we have kicked this can down the road. And county officials, Commissioner Longstrip will understand what I'm talking about, jail costs. We have got to figure out these jail costs. They are bankrupting counties, and you know we can't allow that practice to continue. We've got to find a way to fix that, and I hope that we really do something with child care, as I said earlier. But we got to get away, in my opinion, from social issues. The business community that I talk to, the big companies that I talk to, in their manuals and their playbook, they want inclusivity. They want everybody to be treated equally. They don't want to be looking at people because they may look a little different or love a little different or dress a little different. They want inclusivity. That's the business folks I talk to. But it doesn't seem like that will apply sometimes in the West Virginia legislature. We like to go after people that maybe don't look like we do or act like we do. So that's troublesome to me, quite frankly, and I don't know why in 2024 we continue to have those discussions. So that's appalling to me, quite frankly. But again, I'll look forward to any questions you might have, and again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be your representative. And I ended my career in the Senate. It couldn't have been any better. Mike has been so kind to me over there. We worked so well together. I worked with the House colleagues, and it's been one hell of a run, and I appreciate you all so much.
Don't let him stop with Joey again. Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you for your comments, your perspective, your candor. And on behalf of everyone, thank you for your availability during this past session. So we've reached the part of the program where we're looking for audience participation. So anyone, question for the legislators, our delegates, our senators?
Former delegates are allowed that.
Former delegates. You know, there's probably a time limit on that.
No, very short.
Commissioner Longstrip.
Thank you for taking my question. You were talking about child care, all of you were, and that's a big concern. Does that include your concern with the foster care also? Because we have how many thousands of children on foster care? And we don't seem to address that. We're sending them, if you all don't understand this, we're sending them out of state to foster homes. We're sending them to Florida and sending sending people down there to check on them, you can't keep track of that these kids are being taken care of when they're being sent out of state. And even some in hotels is what I've heard. Now that's a shame. And when we want to talk, and Mike, I will agree with you, let go of the social issues that are not important in a state government, and let's deal with helping the people, helping these children that I don't know where they're going to go when they come out of the system at 18 or 19 years old. Where do they go? On the streets and on drugs? And we've got the drug problem here in the state. And I think those are the main things I want to address to you all, that this is what needs to be taken care of. But if you'd like to answer me my question at the beginning, I'm sorry, is that how are we going to deal with the foster care?
I'll touch on it first.
Thank you.
Commissioner, you're right, it is a huge problem. I want to commend Fairmont State College for what they're doing as far as foster care. They was reimbursed, I think it was, I'm looking at the bill number, Senate Bill 650. They were reimbursed $400,000 for their work in foster care that they're doing, taking care of students in the section of the dorm that was converted for foster care and kids in dual enrollment. So we ought to give a hand around the applause. And you know, we need foster care parents or foster care participants. It's a problem. It is an absolute problem. I mean, you know, we've thrown money at it. It's never enough. I don't know the fix-all, but it is a problem and it is recognized by the legislature. You know, hopefully we get more programs like Fairmont State's doing.
Thank you, sir.
They do, so.
Thank you.
A lot of other things we could be doing, but I do want to echo the president's work in that area. And that was part of the reason for our meeting with the Senate president, was we were advocating for funding for their program. They've really run with that. Many other things should be done, and those were part of the things, like I say, that Joey and I were discussing with child care leaders. And in fact, Joey spoke about it on public television. Clearly an area where we need to do more, and it's tragic that children don't have a home.
Thank you.
That's a situation down there. I think there were 3 bills on the House side that had to do with foster care. And one of the big problems we had was with CPS not having enough people. And if you look at DHHR, last session we divided DHHR up. It became such a huge animal that there was no accountability. Nobody knew where the money was going. Nobody, and Mike said we were throwing money at programs. We found out at the end of the year we were worse off than we were before we spent the money. So we're trying to get accountability, divide it up into 3 situations with some oversight in each one, and try to get into the CPS social programs and find out what we can do. We had a situation where a child lost their life in this southern part of the state, and it was a kind of a failure on everybody involved. It was reported, somebody went out and made a visit, and this person said everything's fine, and over the Christmas break, this little girl passed away. I mean, it's just tragic. But when you get into the nitty gritty of it, there's things where, and I'm getting into the weeds here a bit, but you have a young couple that have some children, and they're strung out on drugs, and the grandparents have them. And then the grandparents try to go to CPS to get the children, but the parents say, no, we're not gonna allow that to happen because they've been fighting among themselves. It's a huge problem because you have the parents saying, no, you can't do this with my children, but everybody and their brother knows that the grandparents would probably be the best option for those children. It's a huge issue, and we're gradually changing that. We're changing the mentality, but it takes some time. We let this go for many, many, many years. I think that Linda said, I think the number was at one time was 7,400 foster children. We have 2 guys in the House of Delegates, Adam Burkhammer and Jonathan Pinson, are both foster parents. I know they put in 3 bills that had to do with things like record keeping and accountability and making sure that those children got everything that they were supposed to get from the funding from the state government. It's a huge issue. Raising awareness is everything, and all of us get involved, and if you see something, say something. Too often you see something, I know there's something going on at that house. Talk to somebody, call me, Joey, me, Mike, whoever. Get somebody involved. Get somebody out there to take a look at that child before it's too late. It's a huge problem for us, but we're getting better a little bit at a time.
So I think one good thing that did happen this session, not all of it, is Adam Burkhaver, our colleague, had a bill to try to improve the interface with CPS and foster parents. Because right now, the communication, I think, is very different. So that bill didn't pass, and I'd like to see where that goes. I think it's, the thought behind it is to put an investment of approximately $7 million, but to have more immediate communication with the needs of families and trying to get foster, basically trying to make that, that breakdown communication that we've seen, and we've heard lots of complaints about, to try to make that better. So that's one good thing. And the other thing that Phil brought up was Rayleigh's law, and one of my best friends, a delegate from Wheeling, Sean Fluharty, has been pushing this law that if somebody has an open CPS investigation, they should not be able to, at least for a short period of time while it's investigated, pull their child out of school and homeschool them, because that's a situation that happened with this young girl who ended up dying. And we, after a couple years of fighting to try to get this on an agenda, we were able to put this as an amendment to a bill, and we did pass it through the House. And you know, sometimes time just runs out, and hopefully that'll be something that sometimes it takes a couple years. And one other thing, I had somebody, a constituent, talk to me about trying to make sure that paid family leave, that if you're a foster parent, that could apply to you where there is paid family leave. So I introduced a bill about that this year. Again, sometimes it takes a couple years to get a bill running, but that's something I would hope that maybe we can improve upon, whether it be public employers at the beginning, potentially private employers, that if it applies to somebody who, it would be their children, their family members, that foster care is something that also would apply to help encourage people in that regard.
Thank you. Anyone else? Now's your chance, now's your opportunity. Specific question for a certain delegate or a certain senator? We don't have to.
Got a question?
We don't have to give the microphone to everybody.
I'll go ahead. Senator Caputo,
Yes.
we have many educators in this county. They run deep in my family as well. PEIA is still a problem and underfunded. I know you brought up the bill. Was there any leg work on that bill? And if not, anything else to help fund PEIA?
Well, what my bill did was, there was two bills that's kind of connected together. One was to put legalization of recreational cannabis on the ballot, to let the people in West Virginia decide whether or not they want to legalize recreational weed. If that would have passed, then I had a follow-up bill that said half of the profits from that bill that the state would receive, however it would have been taxed, that would have been determined later, would have went to PEIA. Now, I had a bunch of phone calls telling me what a great idea that was, and a lot of educators liked it and thought it was, you know, it was a part of a solution, not the entire solution, but they thanked me for at least trying to find a way to put some permanent funding into PEIA. But obviously, the leadership didn't like my idea too well, because the bill didn't move. So to answer your question, the bill did not move. But PEIA is a problem that I have been trying to do my best to find solutions for years. I just don't think the proper solution is give an employee a pay raise and then raise the employee's PEIA premiums and act like you did something for them. I just think that's a horrible, horrible idea. You know, when people go out on a stump and talk about, we gave you guys a 5% pay raise, they don't follow it up and say, but your PEIA premiums are probably going to take up most, if not all, or even more of that. So it's a concern to me. Our state employees are precious to me. They do a lot of work and don't make a lot of money, and it's always been a front and center issue for me, because most people stayed with these jobs with the promise of good health care and good retirement, and now that is diminishing. So I wish I had the answer, but no, my bill did not have any legs to say in charge.
And no other bills came up regarding PEIA funding?
Not to my knowledge. Now, somebody else may correct me on that.
Yeah, the legislation kind of retooling the pharmacy benefit managers, that legislation I think will be helpful. Right now, the integration of the drug from the manufacturer until it gets to your shelf in your medicine cabinet, there's a whole lot of steps in there. And, what we've been trying to do in West Virginia is figure out where all the additional costs are built into that, from the manufacturer to your medicine cabinet. And this year's legislation addressed some of the ways that that taxation profit basically is passed along. And, I think that will help. We've had some pharmacy benefit managers that I think really took advantage of our state and our public employees. And this legislation, I think, will level the playing field, making it such that somebody who's insured by Blue Cross and Blue Shield versus somebody whose coverage is through PIA will have similar costs in terms of co-pays and deductibles. And through a lot of work over the past 12 months before session started, we were able to identify that that was not the case. And it was also not the case with respect to maybe a CVS or a Rite Aid versus an independent pharmacy. They were being charged differently based on this distribution system as the medication was coming down to them. So a pretty deep subject, and we actually on the Senate side, we employ one employee full-time to help us with those issues. And I feel like we've made some progress. We'll see. Governor hasn't signed that bill yet, but hopefully that will be helpful. I don't know if any of you guys worked on that legislation.
Just quickly on PEIA, long problem, it's been there forever. We got down there, got digging into the numbers, and you may or may not know this, but if you're a member of PEIA and you have a procedure done within the border of West Virginia, let's say you get $2,000 for that procedure. Because those hospitals, when they signed on to be part of PEIA, they cannot negotiate a price. They accept, just like Medicare, they accept what they're given from PEIA. So for $2,000, you get a procedure inside the state of West Virginia. If you go across the state lines, you can get up to 5 times as much for the same procedure. So from convenience sake, a lot of people jumped across state lines and they got $10,000 for a $2,000 procedure here. Now, if you talk to folks from the Hospital Association, they'll tell you that Medicare reimbursement rate is actually higher than the PEIA reimbursement rate. We corrected that last session. But if you think about it in West Virginia, with the older populace we have, the Hospital Association will tell you that 70% of the people that get across the threshold are Medicare or PEIA. So if everybody coming into your store, you automatically lost 35 or 40% on. That's what happened. The other people that are private payers, we're paying this much to subsidize and offset that. So we had to address that. If you look at the reimbursement rates between those two, now we jumped up to 110% of what Medicare pays. I might touch on something there that's kind of a subject we have to talk about. If you give somebody a pay increase and their PEIA goes up, how many people in here are on Medicare? You increase in Social Security, and what happens to your Medicare? It goes up accordingly because of inflation. Everything goes up. Your Social Security increases based on inflation. When you get that, the next thing you know, your Medicare costs are it's not offset. It's a pattern across the country.
They've all made very good statements on this subject. The only thing I'd say, specifically as it relates to teachers, I think all public employees are important, but I think it can be very discouraging for teachers when you do have and service personnel, when you have a pay raise that is really eaten up by the increase in cost of PEI. We're going to continue to see that. That's the plans that we see. That's going to continue to go up unless we find some type of funding to try to help offset that. I think one of the things that needs to happen is rather than coming at this year by year, we need to have a plan over the long term, 5 to 10 years, about how we're going to encourage more teachers to get into our system. Certainly we have a great university, Fairmont State, with WVU, and we need to do more to support those programs, but we also need to show that this is a career that over the course of time, we can bring more people in. And I think supporting public education is something that we really need to focus more on.
Chad, can I get that just a second? Phil was explaining something, and I might be able to do it with some numbers so you can really understand what he was saying. Last year, there were 12,000 PEIA insureds that were hospitalized in West Virginia. And that cost the plan about $56 million. So remember that number, 12,000 sought their care, inpatient care, it cost PEIA about $56 million. Now there were another 2,000 people who lived on the border of the state, which is about 60% of our population lives in a border county. Those folks went over to Winchester, maybe they went to St. Clairsville, maybe they went down to Roanoke. Those 2,000 people who were inpatient treated hospitals cost PEIA $56 million. Okay, does the number sound familiar? 12,000 people sought care in West Virginia, it cost us $56 million. 2,000 people sought care outside of West Virginia, and that cost $56 million. Almost to the number. I mean, it was very, very close to almost the exact same number. And so we want to keep those dollars in West Virginia if we can. Sure, if there's some unique specialty that somebody can't, receive in state, we understand that, but we want to try to structure this program in such a way where okay, or deductibles a little bit higher if you go out of state. Keep those dollars in state, employing West Virginians, generating tax, consumer sales tax, and all the things that they spend. So that's one of our challenges as well, and that's what Phil was talking about, those negotiated rates, where that West Virginia hospitals pretty much has to take what they get. Yet PI has a system where the out-of-state hospitals can negotiate these rates. So that's hurting us. Another thing on the PIA, kind of the handshake deal with public employees was, hey, we're going to cover 80% of your costs, and you're going to pay 20%. Well, we ended up having a period of time of about 12 years without a PEIA premium increase on public employees. So that 80-20 ratio got down to about 90-10, where the state was paying 90% and the employee was only paying 10. And the reason why it continued on was because the wages were so low. And so I think where we're trying to go, and it's going to be difficult to get there, but we're trying to go in the direction where we can get back to that 80-20, but do it with more wage increases so that, such a big portion of the wage increase doesn't get consumed with that PEIA premium. But in an ideal scenario, our wages would be, 20% or more higher than what they are now, and that 20% cost or lower borne by the public employee would be more manageable. And that may take a little time, but I hope to get there. I, for one, was a child who grew up in the home of a public employee. My dad worked for the state of West Virginia for 34 years. So I know that it was not a home where there was a lot of income, certainly a lot of love that helped us, but we do want to support our public employees, our teachers. I always try, whenever these issues come out, to try to direct more money to our colleges and universities, because they aren't automatically a part of these pay raises. So in the past, I've tried to direct additional funds directly to the universities, to the colleges, so that they can increase their employees' wages too, because some of our university folks really got crunched last year when they got the PEIA increase, but they did not get the full raise, and maybe didn't get it at all. So that's a real deficient area that I want to try to work on as well.
Thank you. Anything else from the audience?
Remember, these people work for you guys. If you have questions, voice them here, not on social media. We'll give you the direct answers.
Okay. Delegates, senators, anything that you would like to address that hasn't been discussed? Oh, boy.
So I would say I'm very thankful for my colleagues here. And I'll go the opposite way that Senator Caputo has just been a mentor to me forever. And since I was working in the governor's office back in 2013, really put his hand around my shoulder and showed me a lot of wonderful things, and I can't thank him enough. Senator Oliverio, I've known him for a while too, and he has been fantastic working across the houses. Every year since he's been back, he sent a letter at the end of the year saying, is there anything that needs help getting over the finish line? And we've talked more and more as I've gotten to know him better. And I think he does a fantastic job for this area. And Phil, and Mike Revolver's not here, and Amy Summers, I think we all talk, and you know, again, it may sound, the headline sometimes comes across as the disagreement. But I think whenever somebody's coming down, I think we always take joy in celebrating the fact that we get people from Marion County, whether they're students from the high schools, whether they're people from different universities, colleges, or from businesses, whatever it might be. And we try to kind of share the love and pass it around, make sure, because we all have a lot of pride in showing off the people that come down, and also speaking up for them. And so we've, again, while the issues, and this is something I said, so this is my last term in House of Delegates, we'll see if I get to serve in the Senate here next year, but one of the things I said was it's important to argue the policy, not the person. And I think we've done a very good job of doing that, and coming together and joining hands, what it means, what's best for Marion County. So I appreciate them for that.
Couple quick things. Joey and Mike did put their arm around me, but it's more like this. So, no, seriously though. It sounds silly, but when we did have guests from Marion County, Joe, Mike DeVault, myself, and Amy, we would make sure that he got one, I got one, Mike got one, Amy got one. Sounds silly, but in the hustle bustle of the morning, we realize that there's 12 or 13 people up there that need to be introduced and have formal introduction on the floor. It was a big deal to us to have that person in group. I want to echo what Chad said. You guys know me. I'm out, I'm bouncing around everywhere. I have a phone number, 629-3220. A question will come up. Either I can answer it for you, or it's something that we take down to the next session with us, hopefully if I get back down there. But there's probably about 12 people in here that gave me suggestions for bills that we went down and pursued and became law. Well, it's on the governor's desk right now. But one of the ones that Joey mentioned a while ago about a bill taking a long time. We had a bill, and when I first got it, it just seemed like a no-brainer. You're in a hospital emergency or operating room, and you have a laser cutter, what they call it, you cover the laser, and it puts off a flume, which can be toxins, hazardous material, blood, whatever. It's a vapor. All the nurses, the anesthesiologists, the doctors, patients, all breathe that. Now they have an air exchange program, but it doesn't work that good. So when they brought that to me, I had a golf tournament. A couple nurses said, "Can you do anything about this?" And I read it and I thought, "Oh my God, this is a no-brainer." Put it in. 3 years later, with the help of these guys at this table, it's law. It's going to be law, and it protects everyone. But when you read some of this stuff, you're like, why isn't this happening? Sometimes the one little comment, the one little story, the one little suggestion that you guys have make all the difference in the state that we live in. Thank you so much for having us.
So I was wrapping up a day at my office. Phil calls, he says, "Hey, we're over here at BW3 in the Suncrest Town Center. I know it's real close to your office." He said, "Come on over, we got some wings, come on over, have a beer." Okay, I'll come over. Well, I go over, and he's got like 12 surgical nurses there wanting to make this pitch on this surgical smoke.
But we could get chicken wings with that.
So he is a fierce advocate. He knew the bill had failed in the Senate previously, and so they educated me as to that legislation. So it's great that we have an opportunity to work together, and I enjoy that. Imagine if you operated a restaurant and you had in your hands a survey of the 100 people that most often go out to dinner in your community. 100 people, most frequently people go out to dinner. They had filled out a survey, and they said exactly what they were looking for in a restaurant. And it started from outside. They talked about the parking lot, the handicap parking, the accessibility, the the restroom, everything about it. It told you a checklist of absolutely everything you needed to do to be successful. All you have to do is take this survey to make sure your restaurant accomplishes all of these things. And that's sort of where we are in West Virginia now when it comes to recruiting economic development prospects, whether they be in-state businesses wanting to grow, businesses from around the country, or even international businesses. We're starting to get a pretty good handle of what they want and what they don't want. And so sometimes when you see the legislature working on an issue, say, gee, why are they working on that? And sometimes it's because we've got that checklist of those companies, whether it be Nucor Steel, whether it be Form Energy, and we're trying to figure out how can we align our state such that we can have significant economic investment. And so sometimes that happens. This year it was involving unemployment compensation. We're trying to balance how can we structure our unemployment compensation program such that businesses would be attracted to come here, but also importantly, very importantly, such that if somebody loses their job, they would have sufficient resources to be able to sustain themselves during that period of unemployment. And those are, just like a seesaw on the playground, those are balancing acts. So when you see us working on something like that, it's because we've got that survey, we're operating that restaurant, and we're trying to figure out how we can get more folks into the restaurant.
You see politicians like to talk. We have to turn down a microphone. Excuse me, I'll just close by saying, sessions come and go, fights come and go. I've always said my favorite part of being a representative is being constituent services. I love to hear from the folks back home who maybe got a pothole they can't get any attention on, or there's a government agency they can't get through to. I love helping people like that. I try my best to return every phone call. I try my best to answer every email and just service the people of Marion County the best that I possibly could. And with that, again, I don't think there's anything left to say other than to thank you all again for supporting all of us up here, and thank you for being so respectful to us when you come down to the meetings. We all appreciate it very, very much.
Well, with that, once again, we will thank you, gentlemen, Delegates Garcia and Mallow, Senator Oliverio, Senator Caputo. Thank you again for your time, answering the questions. Senator Caputo, always thank you again for your 28 years of service. As you and I like to say, you're the one legislator that I can always see eye to eye with. All the time in service.
Never have to read just the mic after.
No. Everyone, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day, coming out and being able to talk with the members of your delegation and take what they said to heart. As our chairman said, they work for us. They're available. If you didn't hear it, he'll spout out his cell phone number and give it to you anytime that they want. They are available and they love to hear from you. Mr. Snodley, if you would close the event out, please.
Thank you. As we draw this luncheon to a close, I want to express my sincere gratitude to our representatives for the work they're doing for us, to Chad and Jay for the work they continue to do to support the Chamber of Commerce, and to each of you for your participation in today's event and for supporting the Chamber year-round. I would like to once again thank our sponsors, Fairmont State University, Pierpont Community Technical College, the City of Fairmont, WVU Medicine, Rogers Electrical, Marion Regional Development Corporation, and High Technology Foundation. And I'd also like to thank Jenny Rowland with Aladdin for assisting with the wonderful meal and event space, and thank you as well to Jeff Miller for providing technical support. Before we officially close, I would like to take a moment to thank one particular individual who has been a special friend of Marion County, our business community, and the Chamber of Commerce and who has spent more than a quarter of a century fighting for a better North Central West Virginia as a member of the House of Delegates and the Senate.
It's not another award.
Senator Caputo, please accept this token of appreciation. The plaque reads, in recognition of Senator Caputo's unwavering commitment, exceptional service, and outstanding leadership benefiting the residents of Marion County and West Virginia from 1997 to 2024, presented by the Marion County Chamber of Commerce with heartfelt appreciation and gratitude. Sir.
The honor is all mine. I'm honored, I'm privileged. Nobody ever thought, including me, I would have never bet on me to ever win an election. You know, a high school graduate, went into the coal mines right out of high school. Got active in my union and just loved representing people, and that's where it all began. So the honor's mine. The honor's truly mine. Thank you all very much. I'll cherish it.
I'll wrap up with this. And just so you all know, we have a number of our chamber board members in attendance. Chairman Newsom has promised the quickest board meeting on record, and that will take place right over here. So we'll rush over there. We've got the agenda lined up, and we'll rush through that as quickly as we can, unless we
So that's how you kept everybody here.
That's right. So I'll finish with this. Today's discussion has been invaluable in fostering stronger connections between our business community and our legislative representatives. Together, we can explore avenues for collaboration, identify opportunities for growth, and reaffirm our commitment to advancing the economic prosperity of our region. As we depart, let's carry forward the spirit of collaboration and the determination to turn ideas into action. By working together, we can overcome challenges and create a better Marion County. Thank you once again for your dedication and engagement. Safe travels.